This is the brand new Nikon ZR. It's the first camera in the Z cinema family, and it's also the first camera to include technology from Nikon and from Red. It'll allow you to shoot a new Red RAW format, which is R3D NE, and allows you to specifically shoot in that format in 6K at 60 frames per second. You'll also notice that we're in an incredible location. We're in a glass-making facility here. So I'm really intrigued to see how this camera performs in such difficult scenarios with high dynamic range, good detail in color, and also incredibly high temperatures. So let's see how this camera performs and let's see what you can shoot with it. Now let's jump into some of the details and some of the specifics when it comes to the brand new Nikon ZR. The headline specification is that the Nikon ZR is the first Nikon camera that will allow you to shoot a new exclusive RAW video format called R3D NE. The NE stands for Nikon Edition. This new RAW format has been made using Red's color science, giving you the choice between R3D NE or the traditional NRAW that we've also seen previously in the Z6 III, Z8, and Z9. When it comes to the main specifications of the Nikon ZR, you'll first of all find that it has a 24 megapixel full-frame partially stacked imaging sensor. It also makes use of the X-Speed 7 processor, the same processor that we find in the Z6 III, Z8, and Z9, and therefore it has the same autofocusing system, meaning you have detection systems for animals, people, vehicles, and birds, and can also track and follow a subject anywhere within the frame. The Nikon ZR can also be used for stills, allowing you to take 24 megapixel full-frame images at incredibly fast frame rates with incredibly fast autofocus. Let's talk about some of the specifics when it comes to resolution, frame rates, and the different formats that you can record in with the Nikon ZR. So you can record up to 6K at 60 frames per second. You can also record 4K up to 120 frames per second. That will apply a DX crop, which is similar to an APS-C size crop or a Super 35 crop. You can also record in a resolution of 1080p up to a frame rate of 240 frames per second. When it comes to the video file types that you can shoot in the Nikon ZR, there are 3 options for RAW recording. First of all, we have the new R3D NE Red RAW video format. You then have the option to shoot in NRAW, which is the same NRAW format that we've seen previously in the Nikon Z5 II, Z6 III, Z8, and Z9. And then we also have the traditional ProRes RAW format as well. All of those options will allow you to shoot in a full 12-bit color. You'll then have 2 options to be able to shoot in 10-bit, being able to shoot in ProRes 422 or H.265 10-bit as well. When filming in the R3D NE format, you can apply LUTs directly to that footage, and you can load in up to 10 LUTs into the Nikon ZR. But when shooting in the other formats, you can make use of Nikon's N-Log profile and also make use of View Assist to show you what your final footage will look like. One big advantage of the Nikon ZR having the built-in Red technology is that it can record in log 3G10. I'm currently being filmed on a Nikon ZR here as our main camera, a Z-mount Komodo X here on our second camera, meaning that color matching is seamless. This is what the footage will look like when compared side by side and then ungraded and then also graded. To give you the best dynamic range possible, the Nikon ZR will give you a dual base ISO. First of all, you'll have a base ISO of 800 and then a second base ISO at 6400 ISO. And when you're shooting with R3D NE, you have 15 plus stops of dynamic range, meaning it's much easier to capture every detail in the shadows right up to the brightest highlights. When it comes to recording audio in the Nikon ZR, the highlight specification is that you can record 32-bit flow audio. This gives you a lot more control if you are peaking or clipping when recording audio internally or using an external mic plugged into the camera. So we're now in a slightly different location, and the main reason for that is we just really want to do a correct and proper test for the audio. There's two main audio features that I want to talk about and show you in this location. The first one is the internal microphones. So these internal microphones, as we mentioned, can make use of that 32-bit float, but they can also make use of a new technology called OZO, and that OZO technology is being used in the ZR for directional microphone pickup. So if you want to use it like a front external shotgun mic, you can, or in this instance, we're going to talk to you about omnidirectional and making use of this microphone in binaural sound. So it records a stereo as a left and a right. I'd also really like to talk to you about the new microphone that's going to launch alongside the Nikon ZR. This is the MED10. This is effectively a shotgun mic, but it has two distinct modes. First of all, there's a pure mode, and then there's also a focus mode. So focus mode is really going to narrow down and listen to a voice. It's mainly going to be used when you're using this mic as a creator, talking to camera, maybe doing things like interviews or just filming yourself. But the pure mode is really going to allow you to use this microphone as audio recording, so collective sound in an environment like this. It'd be really interesting to see what the difference sounds like when using this microphone as well. The RED technology isn't just a benefit for the raw video formats, there are also other options that benefit from the RED technology as well. First of all, the Nikon ZR has new cinematic user modes. These user modes are designed to allow you quick access to cinematic footage in the camera. Whether you want to shoot slow motion or normal video recording, there are options that you can quickly switch between, and the camera will give you the best frame rate and settings to achieve that. There are also RED curated imaging recipes. These allow you to create RED picture controls. These picture controls can be applied to your footage in camera, meaning that you don't have to go and post-process and color grade in post. Sure, the RED raw footage gives you the maximum flexibility in post, but for someone who wants to shoot in camera and post straight away to social media, you can still get that RED cinematic look in camera, making use of the new picture controls. Firstly, when it comes to the outside of the camera, this is a whole new design. It looks very different to the traditional Nikon layout that we're used to in terms of buttons and controls. So let's talk about some of those things. When it comes to the layout of buttons across the top of the camera, gone is the traditional on and off switch that you'll find around the right-hand side shutter button. We now have a dedicated illuminated on and off button on the left-hand side of the camera. This illuminates green to tell you when the camera is on and also tells you when the camera is in standby. On the right-hand side of the camera, we then have a 1, 2, and 3 button. These are numbered and can be used as complete function buttons, so fully customizable. But they also do have a small amount of text next to them, symbolizing what their base default setting is. We then have a traditional switch between photos and videos. One great thing about all Nikon cameras is that all of your video settings and all of your still settings are kept separate. It's effectively like having two different cameras. And in the ZR, that's no different. Around the shutter button, we also then have a new toggle switch. This toggle switch can be used to either punch in to check for sharpness and detail, or you can also use it with a power zoom lens to change your focal length from wide to tele. The shutter button itself is also technically a record button now. There still is a half press for focus and a full press to default to start recording. If you don't like using that button for dedicated recording, one thing that I found really useful is actually using the second record button, which you'll find down here on the bottom left of the camera on the front. Easily accessible if you're already controlling the lens with your left hand, and it means that your right hand is then free to change other settings. We then have our normal front command dial and rear command dial for changing shutter speed and aperture, and also adjusting other settings that you select. Moving around to the back of the camera, this is where we'll see the most drastic change from a traditional Nikon Z mount camera. There's no directional pad, there's no menu button specifically, and there's also no magnifying glass with a zoom in and out. Those controls have either been replaced by other buttons or can be controlled from other areas in the camera. So what buttons do we have? Well, first of all, we have our AF joystick. This allows us to move our autofocusing points around, and you'd be very much used to this on cameras like Z6 III and Z8. But we can also use this joystick to navigate through menus, so it duplicates as that multi-directional pad that you would have had on a traditional camera. Below that, we then have the next button with 3 lines on it. So this button does 2 major jobs. First of all, it acts as the I menu button. So when you give it a quick press, it brings up your I menu. Your I menu is your quick access to your most used settings, whether it's frame rate, frame size, whether it's things like your microphone sensitivity, your white balance, your picture controls. All of your favorite options can be controlled from that single press of a button, taking you straight into the I menu. You can also use this button as a main menu button. So if you want to access the main menu, you push and hold this button, and that will then take you directly into the main menu without you needing to go through your I menu first. And then finally, we have the normal traditional playback button, allows you to play back and view any stills or video that you've taken using your new ZR. One of the other big changes from the outside of the camera is that you'll notice that the ZR has no viewfinder. Being specifically designed for that video aspect, it makes up for that no viewfinder by having a fuller, larger screen. This is the biggest screen that you have in any camera of this category, being a full 4-inch display and also being full P3 color and up to 1000 nits of brightness. It really makes it a much easier display to use, even if you're a camera operator or if you're just using it to record yourself. It's a full vari-angle rotatable screen that you can flip around and also close back in on itself. Moving up to the top of the camera, you'll notice that we have 2 holes for the microphones, and also the hot shoe now has a digital accessory port. This digital accessory port also means you can make use of Nikon's new ME-D10 microphone. When you look at the outside of the Nikon ZR, you'll also notice that there's no holes or vents for a fan. The ZR uses a completely fanless design, unlike a lot of other cameras in the category. By not using a fan, it means that the audio can be clearer, there's no vibration or sound coming from an internal body fan, and it makes use of the materials in the body to dissipate that heat instead. When it comes to the ergonomics of the Nikon ZR, there isn't really any of the traditional ergonomics that we've seen from normal stills cameras, especially when it comes to bigger grips at the front of the camera and so on. There is still a nice indent that allows you to hold on to the front of the camera, but it still feels really nice in the hand to hold. It's not too big and not too heavy. And also when it comes to the back of the camera, my favorite part is that there's a really nice little thumb rest that just makes it a bit easier to hold in the hand. If you do want to add a larger grip to the front of this camera, then there's a range of accessories that will allow you to do that. I've really enjoyed shooting in this location with the ZR, and hopefully it's giving you some really good examples for dynamic range, really good color examples as well, and just hopefully gives you an idea of the results that you could get when shooting with the Nikon ZR.